On behalf of our Board of Education and our Superintendent, Sherry Kropp, I welcome you to our second of four Parent Ed Nights. This one's centering and focusing on internet safety and cyberbullying. Before we get started on introductions and kind of what the night will hold, I wanted to recognize a special guest that we do have in the audience. One of our board members is here, Dr. Jeffrey Barkey. As you may or may not know, our district has 5 priority goals that it sets, and one of them is to create a healthy, safe, and drug-free environment for our students to be inhabited, our school sites to have those types of characteristics and those types of positive, reinforcing mechanisms in place so students are safe and drug-free. So one of the areas we focus on that we see on a day-to-day basis is cyberbullying, is internet safety. These issues come up quite a bit. My name is Chris Vlasic. I'm the Director of Safety and Student Services. I was the assistant principal last year at the high school. Dealt with this quite a bit on a daily or on at least a semi-daily basis. Kenneth Lepore is also here. He's our assistant principal of Student Services. He's in the back. What the night will hold will basically be we have an Orange County Sheriff here, Deputy Dan Villa. He's the SRO over at Foothill High School in the unincorporated area of Santa Ana. He's also in charge of our Rossmore School. So he's been a tremendous partner with us in doing our school assessments, recommending different safety recommendations to keep our campuses safe. And he's been a great partner this year with us, and agreed to come down and do part of this presentation in tandem with our SRO, who's Officer Dan Brandt of Los Alamitos Police Department. So both of these gentlemen together have about 18 years of law enforcement experience. Like I said, they've been tremendous partners in keeping our campuses safe, and they too have a wealth of experience in these areas. So they were kind enough to put their heads together, collaborate, and have this presentation for you tonight. So I really want to thank them for taking the time out of their schedules, out of their, like I said, business schedules to be here and to prepare for this event. Deputy Villa has actually done this presentation on a couple other occasions in at his school sites in his district. So we're really pleased to have him here tonight. So without any further ado, really what's going to happen is we're going to have about a 45-minute presentation. We're going to ask you guys to hold all of your questions to the end. We will have a nice question and answer period at the end. Whether those questions are directed to the school district, or law enforcement, we will all be around willing and able to answer those questions. And then we'll have some coffee and cookies on your way out. Hopefully you signed in on the way, and we also have some materials. So those are obviously for you, for your perusal and for your resource. We also are going to have this online, so we're gonna post the event probably in an edited form on the website, on the district website. So we're looking forward to tonight. This is, like I said, a very important topic, a topic that's ever changing, ever growing. It evolves quite a bit on a year-to-year basis. And some of the things that we will talk about tonight will maybe put the ball in your court as a parent as to what decisions you need to make or maybe keep on making in terms of social media, in terms of monitoring your students, their cell phone use, and how they are putting themselves out there in terms of their digital reputation and digital citizenship. So as we know, everybody pretty much these days has a smartphone, has a cell phone, and are using it exclusively as a means of communication. So it's really important for our young students to understand the dangers, some of the things that are from a responsibility standpoint, and some of the things that are out there that they might not know are out there, or you might not know that are out there. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Deputy Dan Villa.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Deputy Dan Villa. As he said, I have a high school I work for in North unincorporated area of Tustin, Foothill High School, Hughes Middle School, and about 9 elementary schools, and all the 4 Rossmore schools we have here. Done this presentation before a couple times, got a lot of positive feedback from families and parents, concerned parents. This presentation is not for kids. This presentation is for parents only. I see a couple kids in the audience. I would recommend, because we are going to show some adult content, some pretty touchy things that are for parents, and also safety tools for parents. I equate it to, I don't want to show a car thief how to steal a car better. This is for you. I'm going to show parents tools on how to better equip them and how to guard and put parameters for the electronic devices. Thank you. So the first thing we're going to talk about today, what is cyberbullying? We're going to discuss digital reputation and digital footprint. How important is it to respect yourself, to not get any inappropriate images out there, because once they're out there, we can't get them back. They're out there for good. And also how to keep our kids safe and keep them away from all the dangers that are online. Mobile devices. Number one form of communication with kids. They text between 15 to 1,800 per month text messages. Their fingers work faster than they could even talk. It's amazing how they send out messages and quick little pictures and whatnot. 1 in 3 teens consider the internet as important to them as air, water, food, or shelter. Without their phone, without that electronic device, that iPad, it's their bloodline basically. And why? Fear of missing out. We call it FOMO. They want to know what's going on. They want to be up to date. They want to know where the party is. They want to know where everyone's hanging out. They want to be a part of it. It's that instant gratification they get from the internet. One of the big issues we have is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people. About 4,400 occur per year. Bully victims are 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide, according to Yale University study. When you see the extreme effects of cyberbullying, they equate it to the same effects of post-traumatic stress syndrome, anxiety, withdrawn. They get very sheltered. Cyberbullying is a real thing. When I first came to schools, I was surprised at what I saw. You get an emotionally distressed individual, and they get constantly bombarded on the internet. It's not like when we're kids and you get in an argument or fight at a playground sandbox. It doesn't stop there. It continues over and over again. And without proper parameters, without oversight, negative things can happen. Does anyone know this story of Amanda Todd? This is a very graphic, sad story. 15-year-old girl. She ends up committing suicide. She is tricked in a way into sending nude photos of her, posted online, constantly harassed, constantly bullied. She tells her story through flashcards, and ultimately she takes her life. Shows very graphic pictures of her cutting at the end. So I'm just warning you and preparing you. It is sad. I've had mothers cry when watching this video, so if you're a little squeamish or you're going through something with your family and don't want to watch, that's fine. You can get up and leave, walk away, go to the restroom. It's about 3 to 5 minute video. So you have an emotionally disturbed child getting bombarded constantly. She moved towns, she moved away, and it didn't stop. Constant harassment, the constant bullying, just bombarded with all these messages of negativity. I don't know the full backstory as far as what parameters were there, and her parents obviously tried. They moved her away, but it still continued. You have to constantly monitor your child's social media. So what has changed? What hasn't changed? Kids learn to get along. Kids are still trying to get along, still trying to figure out who's who in the zoo. But what has changed is an instant communication, an instant gratification. Again, what happens in the sandbox, kid pokes another kid, they usually handle it right there, but not anymore. They could talk to each other anonymously and without that social interaction. So they say things they normally wouldn't say, they do things they normally wouldn't do because they don't see that response. They don't see that social response, they don't get that back. So that's why you have to, as parents, you have to check what's going on, you have to read text messages, you have to monitor the social media to see what's going on. The problems with social media. Again, children can communicate outside their parents' sphere of influence. How many of your kids have social media accounts? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook? How many of you know each and every person that follows your child? Do they know those people? More importantly, have they ever met those people face to face? Do not let your child have a follower that you don't know or that your child has never met face to face. And more importantly, you need to follow your child. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what messages are going out, what pictures are going out. Because if they're doing dope, if they're having sex, if they're drinking, they're taking pictures of it and they're posting it somewhere. All portals, the portals that lead to social media. These are just examples. But again, if they're doing dope, if they're having sex, it's on social media. I can't tell you how many kids that look in their phones, find them smoking weed, doing other drugs, inappropriate pictures. If they're doing it, they post it on social media somewhere, taking pictures. And we'll go over Vault apps and how they hide it. Text messaging. Kit, text now. How many of you have seen these apps on your kid's phone? They could communicate anonymously. The font's too small, you can't read it, but very inappropriate messages going back and forth. They could delete them instantly. Ask FM, have you seen this one on your kid's phone? They could communicate anonymously. All these apps are not apps your children should have. Meow and Tinder. They say they're a social app to talk with casually, but it's basically a hookup site. Hook up anonymously. Send out, hey, what are you doing? It's basically a dating site, and kids are using them. Vine, how many have Vine? Problem with Vine, the 6-minute videos, your kids could follow whoever they want, and anyone could follow them anonymously. Again, you have to check your parameters, you have to check their social media. Snapchat, it's a big one. I'm sure Officer Brent has stories of that one as well. Kids send pictures because guess what? In 5 or 6 seconds, they're deleted. Well, guess what you could do? Screenshot that picture, that inappropriate picture they take. Now it's everywhere. There's other self-destructing apps, Blink, Scam, Burn Note. They want to, the kids know about the self-destructing apps, they think it's safe, but you can still screenshot it and save it and send it out. It's still dangerous. This is a video on sexting. I just had to deal with an issue. I was talking with Officer Bratton about it. Had a young lady send her boyfriend inappropriate pictures. Boyfriend sent it to a friend at another school. During the course of an investigation at that school for a drug case, they found a picture of this girl who goes in my school. Called him boyfriend, found out who's who in the zoo. Nice kid, told me the truth, told me everything that happened. But now we have to explain to her picture's everywhere. She knew the boy had it. She thought he deleted it. But now it's everywhere. Digital reputation, digital footprint. Talk to your kids. Where these pictures go, what they're doing, where does it go? How far does it follow them? Employers use it for job applications. Colleges look at the social media sites. Where does all this stuff go? Talk to your kids. Sexting is a crime. Sharing child pornography is a crime. Talk to your kids. Let them know the dangers. Let them know what's out there.
I am Officer Dan Brand. Some of you guys know me. I work here locally at the high school. I've been an officer for 8 years. I graduated from Los Alamitos High School. When I graduated, we had dial-up AOL. So I'm not quite at the same time frame as the kids now. But first, I kind of want to get an idea of what our audience is. How many of you guys have high school students? Okay, how about middle school? Okay, that's great to see. You have high school and middle school here, because it's never too late to get involved in social media and figure out what your kids are involved in. It's better definitely if we start at a younger age, but it's never too late. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with talking about predators online, and some of those characteristics of the type of people that are out there. I'm also, you're gonna hear me say it multiple times, is communication. Because communication with your kids is the most important thing, not just with social media, but with anything they do. If you can communicate with them, you can constantly communicate with them throughout their lives, you're gonna be in tune with what they have going on. So we're gonna go ahead and start off. So predators online. First of all, let me explain this. This number is correct. In 2013, 747,000 sexual predators, means they've been convicted of a sex crime in the United States. What is it, 300 plus million people? That's a pretty high number. So the reality is, a tool of electronics is a great tool. You have instant access to whatever information you want, but you have instant access to these applications that Debbie DeVia talked about. So do those guys, or girls. 747,000 of them are out there trolling the internet. Not all of them, but they're trolling the internet looking for people that are vulnerable. So you got, of the people that were victims, 30% were boys and 70% were girls. You have 1 in 5 US teenagers who regularly log online said they've received unwanted sexual solicitation via the internet. It's 20%. You have, in 100% of those cases, the victims met willingly with the predator. So I'll give you kind of my experience. I was a detective prior to being a school resource officer, so I was the one conducting some of these investigations. And it's here locally too, just like it is anywhere. So we were doing, I'm sure you guys have seen the Chris Hansen, the MSNBC, where he meets out with the predators who they've lured boys or girls in. We didn't do the same extent, but we've done that here locally, where you have people who are soliciting boys and girls of all ages to meet them. So we've conducted those investigations. We've conducted investigations where we've had to go to Texas, or we go to different states. We're arresting people across lines that are communicating with kids here locally. And the reality is, people that are doing this online will go to extreme lengths to meet, a child. So you got to keep that in mind. Okay, who's following your kid? That Vivian talked a little bit about it. What's your child's social media privacy settings? Some people have Facebook, different Twitter, whatever it is. Well, there's a lot of different pieces of that. You could have, a lot of them will say the city they live in. They say their age. So if you have a predator out there that's looking for someone that's maybe 17, 14, whatever it is, and they put their age, and they put their city, well then what they do is they get online and they start talking to them via messaging. Oh, hey, what school do you go to? And they ask a lot of questions. Especially someone younger is just going to answer the questions. And then from that point, they start slowly asking more questions. What's your child's criteria for approving friends and followers? Do you guys have, do they have a criteria? I can tell you usually what their criteria is. How many likes can I get? How many favorites can I get? Hey, I got 100 likes on this post. So, because not every kid, but people are looking for that instant gratification of approval. So they want to know, how many likes can I get? Well, the more friends I have, the more likes, right? So that's something we need to be very aware of. Who are the friends or followers? Kind of the same thing. And are you your child's follower? How many have social media? How many have Facebook in here? Probably more, because the kids say that's for old people. I have one too. So how many have Twitter or Instagram? So there's a couple up there. Well, here's the reality. If you start young, because the reality is they're going to have a social media site. They're going to have it whether you know it or not. Because they don't need, they may need your approval, but all they need to do is get their iPod Touch, go to McDonald's, Starbucks, wherever has Wi-Fi, and sign up for an account. Get a Gmail account. They can sign up without you even knowing. So if you can do it responsibly and be their follower earlier, I have a lot of parents that are following their kids, but they started at 12 years old. Well, now they're 17 years old, man, I got 1,000 friends. Do you think they're regularly scrolling through there to see who their followers are? No, they got 100 likes, they don't really care. So you want to know what's going on. Go for a couple slides here of what they're looking for. They're looking for children that are emotionally vulnerable due to problems at school or home. And they want to listen, they're going to listen and sympathize with those kids, because kids might be saying, oh man, my parents don't listen to me because they tell me to do A, B, and C, and I'm always in trouble. And they're going to try to drive a wedge between you and your child. They're going to seduce their targets through attention, flattery, affection, kindness, and even gifts. They're going to gradually introduce sex into conversation or show sexually explicit material. So the reality is, usually with younger kids, so that's why I ask if there's any middle school, or even elementary, what would occur is it's called a grooming process. You're going to look for those children that are online with no supervision whatsoever. They may have an application that I'm doing an investigation. They might not even know what this application can really do, but they hear their friends have it, so they sign up for it. Well, they click on, someone sends them a notification, they click on it. Well, now someone's video chatting with them, or they're chatting with them through a messaging system. And that person that's looking for that certain age group is going to start asking them questions. Hey, how old are you? Where do you go to school? Where do you live? Hey, what's your address? They're going to continue to do that, and they're going to form bonds with them. And then what's going to happen is they're going to ask about how home life is. How are your parents? Oh, your parents shouldn't treat you that way. Oh, you don't have a phone? We can get you a phone. So they're going to start grooming and start slowly building a relationship with the child. And then what's going to happen is they're going to slowly, once they rope this child in and they groom them, they're going to start asking for, get into sexual conversations or sexually explicit material. And then that child that is now in this communication with this person is going to feel embarrassed. So they're going to feel like they can't go into anybody. They feel like they're in too far. So they're going to continue that communication so they're not found out. Because you can imagine the amount of pressures kids are under as they are now. Making friends, pressure to have a girlfriend or boyfriend, pressure to do good in school, sports, whatever it is. So you can understand that they don't want to be embarrassed. That's the last thing they don't want to happen to them. So here's an example of someone in a public trust, and I want to make sure we start. This is a teacher, but generally speaking, it's anybody in the public, anywhere from, could be police officers, could be family friends, could be anybody in the community. But this one, a 30-year-old high school history teacher, posed as a female online, and look at that, 106 boys got them to send sexually explicit material to them. So, as you can imagine, one person is able to get 106 different kids. That's why it's so important that we're involved in what our children are doing online. Because you'll see the signs. You'll see what their message is back and forth. Because they don't get to that point with, sometimes they do, but generally speaking, there's a grooming and some communication involved. So what should you do? We're going to go back to communication. Like I said, that's the single most important thing that you guys can do as parents. So you want to sit down with your child. You want to talk and explain, why is it dangerous for people that you don't know to have in your social network, right? Explain how serious that is. So, what about, after that, outline the risk, and ask, what's the upside of keeping a total stranger in your network? This is where you have to reason with your child. That's why you can't just go to your child and say, hey, take this person off your friends list. You need to actually be able to communicate with them and sit them down and talk to them, and not just one communication. It needs to be multiple communications. So a lot of people say, you think about it, man, I'm gonna have Johnny, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna knock off this social media stuff. And he's not gonna get on that Twitter account, we're shutting it down. If you think that way, who thinks that's gonna work in here? Guarantee it won't. I guarantee you that they will open another Twitter account that you have no idea that's open. I've known kids that have 3 Twitter accounts. One for their parents, maybe one for an activities for school, and then their own one their parents don't know about. So that's why if you can keep communication and figure out what they're doing, you're gonna be ahead of the game. Review each follower with your child. So go through their friends list. Do you know these people? Do you have face-to-face interactions with them? Well, let's figure out whether they're worth being on social media or not. And like I said, face-to-face relationships are not. And then if they get new requests in the future, give them the criteria, hey, is this person worth adding or not? So they have a criteria in mind that this is what they need to be A, B, and C for them to be able to follow you or you follow them. Okay, here's some examples of, you got the marijuana pipe, and it says wake and bake. I could tell you, I have a Twitter account, and I have parents that call me here at the school, and they say either my son or my son's friend has a Twitter account. And they see pictures like this, and it's public for everybody to view. And we'll talk about it later about digital reputation. Hey, that person's reputation is. If they're in there, that's what they want people to see. And I can't tell you how many times I get a call, and I have to call that parent and say, hey, your son or daughter has pictures of bongs or marijuana or anything like that online. So there's some indication that they're using, whether it's them using it or paraphernalia that they're posting. So be realistic with your child, because most likely they've already been involved in their social media. If you're at the point now where you're trying to get involved, you do that talk, probably not going to work very good. If you can slowly work your way into figuring out what kind of social media they're doing, that would be the better route. So, and then a couple more things I want to add about communication. I can just tell personally, I go back to how do we figure out what our children are doing? First of all, I want to applaud everybody that's here, because it's, you guys are already showing that you care. And the fact is, I know in my family, we sit down at the dinner table, we turn all electronics off, we have dinner as a family. And I know there's a lot of studies that show if you have dinner with your kids every night or as much as you can, and use that as your communication time, you're going to be way more successful in the communication with your kids. So I think it's important that we also be good role models for our kids. And if you have a Facebook account or you have, your iPhone, and you're at the dinner table or wherever else, and you're playing on the phone, hey, maybe your child's going to do I think the stat was 1,500 to 1,800 text messages a month. Well, I've seen kids at 10,000 text messages a month, easy. So make sure we're good role models on our social media use also. Somewhere? Oh, there we go. Okay, is 13 old enough? Okay, I want to first talk about what can be used to have any of these applications or any of this social media. iPod Touch, a Nook, let's see, a Kindle Reader, an old phone that doesn't have service. We can use that with Wi-Fi capability. An iPad, whatever it is. So the reality is, first of all, you need to know what electronic devices you have in your home. Because almost any electronic device now you can use for Wi-Fi. So whether you're going, oh man, we got to make that decision whether we're going to buy whoever a phone at 12 years old, well, most likely they're pretty sophisticated. They know how to already operate these systems on any Wi-Fi. So let's think about it this way. 13 years old, the frontal lobe is still developing, which is the judgment, decision-making. Things, do you think your 13-year-old's equipped to make decisions on, hey, should I post this or should I not post it? And their emotional capabilities are a lot different at that age also. And the frontal lobe is still, it's still developing until late 20s. As we know, because you could probably look back and go, man, when I was 20, I'm making different decisions now than when I was 20. Well, now think about when you're 13. We're giving them this device to make these huge decisions in life without having all the information. So let's think about it also this way. When your child was 2 years old, who wanted to have their child have the best car seat you possibly can have? Right? You wanted to have that good helmet so if they fall off their bike, they can protect their head. You're going to put plugs in the electrical outlets that electrocute themselves. But do we give them a device where they have the capability of going online, communicating, whether it's Skype, whether it's FaceTime, whatever it is, communicating with people all over the United States that have different agendas and that have, maybe their frontal lobe is a little more developed and they're making decisions that your child can't. So you really need to think about that. And when you do decide to give your child a device, so if you have a younger child especially, hey, I'm going to give you this iPhone. Okay, it's that time. But are you setting up guidelines? Are you setting up maybe a contract? I think there's some contracts printed out there. Are you setting up a contract with your child that, hey, I want to make sure that I can continue to monitor your use? You know, I know a lot of kids are going to be like, no way. Well, that's okay, you don't get this iPhone. So you need to start that early. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is digital reputation. Kind of like we touched on earlier with the pictures of the marijuana pipe. You know, you need to have a communication with your child. How do you want people to see you? Because I can tell you, you know, maybe it's not reality, but perception is reality, right? If people see it, and that's the way you want people to see you, that's maybe how they're going to treat you or they're going to communicate with you. So it'll kind of tell us so.
Everybody has a dream. I have mine. My dream is to play baseball for a university. My favorite university growing up as a kid. So every day I was there after school, you know, taking cuts. Boom, boom, just taking cuts, just trying to, you know, get, I guess, cut closer to my dream, you know. So, you know, one day I come back, you know, from practice, and I run to the mailbox. I get a letter in the mail. You got accepted, you're in the baseball team, everything is going awesome. Finally, I got into my school of my choice. I'm playing baseball for it, you know, it's a dream come true. Everything is working so well. So here I am, just some small town kid at some big time university, and I'm just like wide-eyed going crazy, you know? Just having a ball with everything. So, my first semester, one day after practice, you know, went to the guys who were going out to a party, and I'm like, all right, cool. You know, sounds like something to do. So here we are, we go to the party, you know, somebody hands me a beer. I'm like, okay, it's my first college party, you know, why not? So, you know, take one down, boom, first beer. You know, he hands me another, oh, come on, keep going. Okay, you know, boom, another one. And I probably had a few too many beers, and you know, I'm starting to act dumb. I'm just like, like, what's up, taking pictures, and got my beer, it's like, you want that? Like, you know, just being dumb, because I'm drunk. I'm starting to act crazy, you know. So a buddy of mine is walking around with his camera phone, just taking pictures of everybody acting dumb, and then here he goes, he gets a picture, snaps it. I got a beer in my hand. So, a few days later, I found out this picture's on the internet, and everyone's seen it. Everyone's seen it. You know, baseball friends, my coach. I mean, I don't even think my mom saw it. So here I am, everything taken away. Just like that. Scholarship, gone. Baseball, gone. School, gone. My dream, gone. All because of some picture on a camera phone. Everything I worked for, every day after school, gone.
So there you go. I mean, here's the reality. Kids work so hard to, maybe that case is, one case, but the reality is this happens. Here, look right here, 78% of corporate recruiters check social media to learn about their prospective employers. 60% of college admissions officers look at Facebook or other social media sites to check on the people that they're going to accept. So if your digital reputation is maybe not so clean, there's a lot of competition for different jobs or different people applying to schools. Why take someone that's a risk? So it's important to have that conversation with your child, as young as you can, that whatever you put out there is the way people are going to see you. And if you do it later on in life, it's going to be harder to change their mind. You're going to just sound like you're nagging them and everybody else is doing it. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about is bullying. I can tell you, we're going to talk about some definitions. Some people have their own definitions in their mind what bullying is. I want to make sure I clear it up though on one thing. Some people think bullying is an interpersonal conflict. We have conflicts all the time. People are not always going to get along. So if I have a problem with somebody, they have a problem with me, we talk trash back and forth, that's not bullying. That's just having an issue back and forth. Bullying will define. So what's important is if your child is being bullied, or you see that maybe they received a message or there's a video or whatever it is, we need to conduct an investigation ourselves. And hopefully your child will come to you. And some of those things are, first thing they want to do is tell the bully to stop. I'm going to let somebody know if you continue to do this. The next thing is, hey, let's collect evidence. Take a picture of that, a screenshot. Take a video of that video that was posted. Note the date and time and the site it was posted. Save all the text messages, emails, voicemails, all of it, and don't retaliate. Okay, here at school, I can tell you, myself and Mr. Lepore, we deal with this. And when kids come in at the very beginning, we usually have a really high success rate. Because once we can have a conversation with the other person, and they realize that maybe they are bullying somebody, a lot of times they look at themselves and they say, that's not the way I was raised. I got caught up in something and I went a little farther than I should have. So I implore that you guys tell your children, if they have an issue, have them come talk to us. We can help solve those issues before it goes farther down the road. Okay, and then what do you look for a child that's being bullied? So you want to look kind of like someone that's addicted to drugs. They're going to get more withdrawn. They're not going to go out with friends. They're not going to make new friends. They're going to hang out with a different set of friends. They may be crying or more emotional. They may have changes in behavior and acting out. And here's another thing I kind of just through this year is attendance. You're going to have a child that's going to say, hey, I'm sick more often. Or they're saying, I don't want to go to school, I don't feel good. Well, maybe that's when you have that talk with your child, figure out what's really going on. Maybe that's a reason they're not coming to school also. So, make sure you talk to your child and let us know if there's an issue going on, or an administrator. Okay, here's some things that the schools can do. So there's a lot of educational codes that the legislature have enacted because it is an issue. So you can read those. But also, is it school related? And that's what the legislation said, causing a reasonable pupil to experience the following: substantially detrimental effect on his or her physical or mental health, substantial interference with his or her academic performance, substantial interference with his or her ability to participate in or benefit from services, activities, or privileges provided by school. So that's a wide range. So feel free to talk to us if you feel like there's an issue, and we can see if it's school related. And if it's not school related, we can at least have those communications with those kids and figure out how we can get it to stop. Okay, here's the last thing. The Orange County Sheriff's Department has a website. They have some links to some of the information we've shared. They also have like the internet users contract. So if you go to cybersafetycop.com, I looked through it. It has a lot of good resources. Please look through there. So there's our contact information. You can feel free to call me anytime. I'll answer your question. You could shoot me an email. That's usually the best way to get a hold of me.